Welcome back, or if it's your first time, then welcome. I'm Piehole with NTK Gaming. Today I'll be talking about my top 10 favorite loadouts for each class. We'll start with the Scout. Now this one's really simple, because the Scout is already a perfect class. You have the scattergun, the pistol, and the bat. Now that's basically all you need. You can switch out your scattergun for a force of nature if you need extra jumps, but I'd say overall the scattergun is the best stock weapon. Now for your secondary, you use a pistol, but if you need like the jumps for certain maps, you can use the winger. And if you want to play a support scout, then you just use the milk, and that's for your secondary. Now the melee for the scout, it's obviously just the bat or a reskin of it, the pan, whatever you want to use, because there are no direct upgrades, unless you're using the Sandman, and then for your secondary, you want to use the Cleaver. Now on to the next class, the Soldier. For a pub, you want to use the black box, unless you have a medic on you, and then I'd go with the stock. Black box is just like a medic all the time. You get healed every time you hit someone. It has one less in the clip, so just make sure of that. Don't fire too many, and you should be fine. Now for the secondary, you can either go with the shotgun or the gunboats. Both are an amazing choice. Gunboats, you could go market gardening melee, but melee that is probably the best overall is the escape plan, because it gives you so much more maneuverability and you can get away from tough situations. So if you're using shotgun, I'd go with same melee, doesn't really change. But if I'm using gunboats, you could go with market gardener or something like that. Now for the pyro, the stock flamethrower or the degreaser. The only reason I'd say stock is because it's in a pub and you're going to be fighting other pyros. So if they're using a degreaser, you can just beat them by damage. Now for your secondary, a shotgun or a flare gun. Flare gun, I'd go with degreaser, and a shotgun, I'd go with stock. Just because you get so much more damage from the degreaser, and it's hard to use a flare gun and the stock flamethrower together. Now for the melee, I'd go with the power jack. Or you can also use like the mailbox, the extinguisher. Those are good, but they recently got, well, not recently, but they did get nerfed, making them worse, allowing the power jack to be a viable option. The heavy is a straightforward class. I mean, you could probably go any loadout with the heavy and get some kills, but my favorite is either the stock or the brass beast. And I mean, the Tomislav's up there in pubs, but you know, it's just like barely not there. Stock is because, well, it's just all around balance. Brass beast is if you want to like be a sentry, I guess. You just stand in one place and get as many kills as you can. For the secondary, sandwich or shotgun. Sandwich obviously because healing, use more survivability, or you could heal your teammates, heal a medic if you have one. Shotgun just for more damage if you run out of ammo in your primary, or you're in a close range fight with a scout jumping all around you. Now for the melee, I would go with gloves of running urgently. I don't really see any other option. You could go with the ones that make you laugh, I forget what they're called. But they're more like a joke, so if you get to the front lines as fast as you can, you want to use the gloves of running urgently, then there's no real other choice for you to have. Now the NG can be played multiple different ways. Offense, defense, it just all depends on your preference. My favorite is the Widowmaker for the primary. You never have to reload, and if you have a Crits Krieg medic on you, it's just amazing. Secondary, I'd go with the pistol, and for your melee, I'd go with a Jag. Now if I'm playing a Gunslinger NG, I mean obviously melee is the Gunslinger, and then secondary, I'd go pistol, and primary, I'd actually go Rescue Ranger, just because it's so funny to just keep healing your mini sentry across the map. No one knows what's going on. Now for the medic, the best primary is probably the Crusader's Crossbow, depending on how you play. Any medigun. It doesn't really matter except the Vaccinator. I mean, just depends on what your situation is, who the players on your team are, stuff like that. In the melee, you could use the Ubersaw or the Vita or Vita Saw, however you want to pronounce it. I'd really go with the Ubersaw. It just depends on how often you're dying, because you can keep that 10%, but if you get one hit with the Uber Saw, you automatically get 25%. For the sniper, I would not recommend the Huntsman, but if you want to use it, it's fine. It doesn't really matter. I would just go with anything like the stock. So like the Heatmaker, like the stock, the upper hand, the reskin. The Machina is okay. It doesn't really do as good as the stock though. And for the secondary, I'd go SMG. You could trade that out for a Razorback if there were a lot of spies. For the melee, I'd go the Shahancha, just because you get that huge damage bonus when you're low health, and that's like the only time you really use melee anyway. Another good strategy, if you trade out your SMG for the Girarde, then you can use your Bushwhacker to get crits, which is an amazing combo. Now for the last class, the Spy, I can't make a best loadout for it. There's just so many different possibilities, all depending on your playstyle. Like if you want to camp, you can use the Ambassador with the Cloak and Dagger, and then just hide and headshot people and get kills that way. If you want to be aggressive, you could go Dead Ringer, like Diamondback, and then just get as many crits as you can, save them all up, take a whole team out if you wanted to. I mean the Kunai, its recent buff, is now amazing. Dead Ringer got nerfed, but it's still very viable. Instead of what was good for the Spy, I was just going to say what was bad for the Spy, but after really thinking about it, all of the Spy's items are good if used in the right way. For example, your Eternal Reward, that can be a really bad weapon if you don't know how to use it right. But if you do, you can get like 10 kills in a row easy with it. Now keep in mind these are just my opinions, not for competitive play, just for pubs. If you want to wreak some havoc in pubs, I'd suggest using any of these loadouts, and I'm not saying that any other weapon is bad, they are mostly all good. Except for some melee items like the Sun on a Stick, you could basically use any weapon or item and win in a pub with it. That said, have fun, take care, goodbye. But wait, you're probably like, yo, this guy just forgot the demo minute. Well, I didn't. As you can probably tell, the Demo Man's my favorite class, it's my main, and I'll probably be biased about it by saying it's the best class and my favorite. Now, in a pub, there's two ways you can play him, which are basically different classes altogether. There's the Demo Knight, which has a shield, and then the classic Demo Man using the Sticky Bomb Launcher. Now, if you're going classic Demo Man, I suggest either the Grenade Launcher, the Lock and Load, or the Iron Bomber, and this normal Sticky Bomb Launcher. No, none others are good. And then for the melee, anything you want really. Just as long as it doesn't buff the shield, it should be fine. Now for the Demo Knight, I go with either the Lock and Load, the Grenade Launcher, or the Iron Bomber for your primary. For your shield, you're going to want the Tide Turner. It's just something you need. The others don't cut it. More damage reduction from the Charge and Targe, and more damage from the Splendid Screen. Those aren't worth the maneuverability you get from the Tide Turner. And for the melee, now you can go with different ones like the Persian Persuader. That's good. But by far, my favorite is the Claymore. You get that extra 0.5 charge time, you can travel further, and you can get kills from longer distances. Now you can tell me your opinions down in the comments, if you agree or you think I'm totally wrong. I'd love to know.